Thanks, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for giving me an hour of, I guess, depending on where you are in Europe, around lunch, I think. It's about midnight, kind of just gone 11 o'clock for me, so I've got to get my time zones right. The plan today really is quick intro of the team, overview of IRiS, then we'll roll into a light demo, and as I mentioned, we'll finish off with any questions that anyone might have. And here we go. In terms of the team itself, normally I do this kind of thing in a bit of a duo. There's two of us that like to go and present. And Julian, my boss, he's not available at the moment. He was around in Europe. I think he's over in the US currently. I think I've lost him a little bit somewhere around the world. But no, he's in charge of IRiS. On the other side, I'm Alex. I'm just the product manager for IRiS, and I'll be presenting to you guys today. I thought I'd put our details up on show for everyone. If anyone's got any questions or if they're interested afterwards, feel free to get in touch with either of us and we'll try to help you out as much as we can. So we'll move right on to the overview, I guess. So what I'd like to do today really is to show off IRiS, I guess, as an easy to grasp automation tool that builds a data vault in a consistent and intuitive way. Hopefully, you'll see that the process is easily maintainable and provides the agility to meet changing business demands, changing business needs, and really just deliver value quickly. IRiS will integrate with most data management platforms and information governance tools. And I find what's helpful at this point and the very early on in the presentation is actually just to say what IRiS isn't. IRiS is not a modeling tool. We won't be doing any of that here. It is also not a orchestration or scheduling tool. It very specifically is a code automation tool. And there's a big reason why we're doing and applying it this way. And hopefully that will be clear as we work through the demo. Oops. So IRiS has been designed by our data vault experts. Knowles, if anyone's kind of heard about him, he's our expert at hand that's helped us out with this. As an automation tool, all our outputs, our table definitions, our store procs are all DB2 compliant. What we really want to do is help to reduce the data vault learning curve, I guess, associated around building and maintaining data vaults. How do we do that? We do that through delivering fast, using consistent outputs, reliable code, and using that to really help you be confident in building out your data warehouse. What we also do is provide what we call the IRiS Knowledge Hub. It's our online training and resource platform. We've got a bunch of training videos on there. We have some playbooks. It's basically what we call our documentation and guides to help kind of use the tool and help you maintain the standards and so forth required to deliver what you need. So IRiS can also be easily added to your data platform. And the way I see this is that there's no need to come to us. You don't need to come and use our database, our platform, our orchestration tools, or anything like that. You don't have to change your ways of working to fit into some new platform. What we want to do is we want to have IRiS basically come to you. We want to integrate with your platform, your existing ways of working. No need to find specialist skills. Whoever you have on decks that's working on the platform that you have currently, we want to be able to slot into that and keep that learning curve kind of quick and easy and confident that you can continue and build your vault. So whether you're using Data Factory to AWS Glue, we will just basically IRiS will build out and automate the code generation that will allow you to integrate with all your tools and just continue on your merry way and speed things up and simplify your development process. What we'll hopefully see, I guess, throughout the next slides and through the live demo itself is really how intuitive the tool will hopefully be, and how easy it will be to use. And at the same time, hopefully you can see how it fits into your sprint, really, your team's way of working and your kind of workflow with your tasks and day-to-day work. Right here in front of us, I guess I have just a bit of a reference slide, some of the supported platforms that we have and some of the tools that we integrate with. What we also want to highlight is that I guess as a data engineer, you're often tasked with building and loading your data vault. You've got to worry about integration. You've got your metadata maintenance you've got to also deal with, and also at the same time, you've got to support a platform. So you're trying to do all this while potentially learning data vault, and you need to also be able to keep up to the data vault standards that are going on the project. And there's just a lot going on, especially if you're new to Vault. What we want IRiS to do is to make your data vault journey simple, and again, get you and your project to be able to deliver faster. Quick price breakdown for anyone who's interested here. We look at charging at about $1,000 per month per user. There's no minimum number. Grab as many or as few as you need. But yep, that's that. And that actually leads us onto the demo itself. What we're going to do is we're going to have a little look at the cars data set. So I find a lot of people kind of want to get a little bit of an idea of what the data is about. And look, it's simple data set you can find online. Nothing overly special. It's just it's a company, and it has car dealerships, several of them in its business, and at the same time, a whole bunch of car servicing businesses as well associated to that. And you're going to have obviously customers that kind of sit between them both, and you'll often, I guess, much like probably a lot of the projects you guys are working on, come across the senior management want further insights around customers across the servicing side and the sales side, and how you're going to go and do that. So the data set does that. In terms of a kind of high level conceptual view of it, on our sales side, we're going to get, in terms of the key business concepts that we're looking at the salesperson, data around that, dealership data, customer data. And then around the servicing side, we've got registration and obviously servicing data, but obviously we have that customer side as well. And what we want to do is potentially bring the two of those together. Before we move on to actually doing something with IRiS, what I want to highlight is really the IRiS workflow and how it works. So as I mentioned earlier, IRiS is not a modeling tool. So you would have got together with your team, you would have modeled out everything you need, and you're ready to go. And what we want to do is take a thin slice of that and produce code for that. And by a thin slice, IRiS works on a single source table basis per time. So let's say in your big model, you've got a source table, you know what you want to get out of it, and you kind of work that back and you realize that a single source table will produce a hub and a satellite. What we need from you is three things. We need the metadata around your source table. We need the metadata around the target. So let's say it's a hub and a satellite. That's what you've modeled out of that source table. And then finally, we need the mapping, the source to target mapping for that. With those three, we give that to IRiS, and that will be used to generate the table definitions, the stored procs, and everything you need to basically load your vault. And with that, if you're working locally, you can deploy that locally, or potentially push that into your CI/CD process and let that go off and get deployed to wherever it needs to. And then what we also have is a kind of a orchestration procedure that allows you to basically trigger the load of your target tables from your vault. So it just knows, I've got to load these specific procs to load these tables so that we can generate all our hash keys and so forth, and then populate, in this example, our hub and our satellite. That ingest proc, we call it, is also pretty handy because that's what you would call in your orchestration tool to load your vault. And you can, call them all in parallel if your platform allows it. You can chain a few of those together based on what you're trying to, if you're trying to maybe populate a certain part of your IM layer, you can kind of work around that and you'll know what chains onto what, but knowing that each time it's just one higher ingest stored procedure you're going to call. That's kind of how it works. You'll do that and you'll go table by table, but how that fits as well into your project is important because that gives you a task on the board, if you'd like. It gives you a piece of work that you guys can sit down, sit with your Scrum Master, and you can estimate and plan your sprint. If you know that this source table takes X amount of effort or time, depending which way you're doing it, and the output is only going to be a hub and a satellite, you can start to plan. You can start to look at what you're going to do throughout the week. And that's kind of our way of fitting into an agile approach. So that takes us on to the demo itself. So what you've got here is IRiS. So just to kind of quickly navigate through what you guys can see, it's our home screen. On there, we have at the bottom left this concept of projects. Think of that as your piece of work. It's just a count of what you've been doing, and it's kind of stored locally, so you can reference back to projects that you've got open and continue working them if you need be. If you're kind of wandering off in the middle, normal application type data, my license type and so forth. And then following on the left, right here is where we maintain our projects, the individual bits of work that we're working on. Now remember, we will produce code, DDL, stored procs, and so forth, and you can take that and then stick that into your Azure DevOps, whatever source control that you're using for your project. Our settings page, so we're going to use Snowflake as our target database for the demo today. And it's as simple as that. And actually, what I also have here, so I have our cars dataset modeled out, and I'm using ERD Lab. It's a free bit of software online, got no affiliation to it, jumped onto it because it was free. Modeled out all my source table. You've got on the gray side my landing tables where my source data is, hubs, links, and satellites and all that. And what we're going to look at specifically is a link with 3 hubs and a satellite. But what I wanted to go with this was there is export functionality on here. So you can export this model out. And what I've done is just, with my friends over at ChatGPT, help me produce a bit of Python that basically took the export to SQL code and turned it into the required metadata files that IRiS needs, the source table, the target, and then the source to target mappings. So with that, what we'll do is kick things off. Let's see, how much time have we got? All right, let's start with our link table. So we're going to get started, add new project, and right here, what I like to do is name all my projects based on the source table itself. I'm going to add that. I have already got my model. I've exported it. I've run my Python shop. I've got my 3 metadata files that I need. And therefore, I just feed that to IRiS in these first 3 steps. So start with the source metadata file. I'll browse to that, take my source file, import that. Step 2, my target file, import that. And And then at this point, you get a bit of an early view of your model. Let me zoom in a little bit for everyone. And you can see I've got my satellite here. Scroll across a little bit, got my link, everything you'd expect, I guess. And at this point, it gives you an opportunity just to check visually that you're getting the output that you're looking for. From here, step 3, source to target mappings. Let's grab that as well. And at this point, it gives you a final opportunity to just quickly, my source table on the left, my target tables on the right. If I go to my link as an example, you can see the mappings from one attribute to another in the target. And again, an opportunity for you to double check your work, make sure you're happy with everything. And then at this point, we'll hit the big blue button and I guess you go grab a coffee and come back. But actually, we've stopped quite nicely at this little point here. As it generates the code, it'll step through all the processes it's doing. And the one we've stopped on, well, that it's taking a couple of seconds to do here, is the source on raw view. So what we've decided to do is to create a source on raw, what we call a source on raw view, which is a view over your target data vault objects. And what we want to do is reverse engineer that back to your source table. And it's a bit of an easy way to check what you're doing. And you could arguably use it for a bit of quick testing if you need to. Check that your 3-4 records in your source table, once they've all been pushed through, match what you've got in your vault using this view. And at the same time, I guess it's also a handy view that you could pass on to anyone who may not be a vault expert, and they may just want to have a look at your landing data, your source data, and you can kind of use this as a way to build that back up for them, and they can go away and just view your raw data from source. So it's quite handy. And then there we go. Nice code generated successfully at the bottom there. Open up our link. That just takes us to a temporary directory where we have our stored procs and our DDLs. I pop into the DDL and I go to the Vault schema. We'll have here the hubs that we require, the 3, our link table there. If I go back, stored proc, got all the procs that we need. What we'll do is I do have Snowflake ready to go. So our tables, our store procs, all loaded, and we did that manually. What we need to do now, I guess, is load the data. So I've got a couple of commands ready to go. Got a first one here, which is the create ghost procedure stored proc. What that does is it loads all your target vault tables with your ghost records, your -1s and so forth. You can run that, and our proc does a check first, checks whether the ghost records are already populated or not. So you could kind of run that as often as you need to, if that's how you want to set things up. And then we have our second procedure, our ingest proc. And you can see I've got the source table name at the end of that. As I mentioned earlier, this is the one proc that orchestrates the load of your target tables based on our service system source table. And from there, if I was to go have a look at our newly created link, you will see our link hash key, our various hub hash keys, and then up at the very top there, our ghost record. And then at the bottom here, this is our source on raw view. If I was to run that, that just re-engineers a view back to your source table, your source data. Nice and handy. A few of our clients quite like it as a quick way just to help them understand what they're doing, especially if they're new to Data Vault. And that is our link created. Just like that, nice and easy. what I have, and so I'm just checking the time to make sure, is if I go back to my slide deck very quickly. On here, I guess what I want to iterate here is that, again, IRiS sits kind of in the middle of what you're doing. You have your modeling team, your data model is building out your model, you've got your source data, they're all doing their bit. Once you've got your model ready and you have your metadata for your source, your target, your source to mapping, you feed that to IRiS, you generate your code, and that goes and populates your vault. And then, of course, your IAM and everything, your dashboards post that. What a lot of people ask us is how we handle Business Vault. And what we do is pretty much the same thing. You take your source data, you push the metadata through IRiS, you generate your hubs, links, and satellites. And then what we suggest is that you take your business rule and you create a query out of that based on your vault tables. And with that, you take that query, you take the result set that you've got, and you land that back into our landing zone where our initial source table sits. We like to use a separate schema for the business vault data, but still we stick it in the same area and it sits in there as another source for IRiS to use. And therefore, based on the data in that table, we will have, again, another source metadata file, a target metadata file, and a source to target mapping. And we'll give that back to IRiS and then generate hubs, links, and satellites again, and round we go again. And then, of course, as a part of how IRiS works, we have our ingest procs. In my kind of diagram here, I've just used Airflow to simply line them up in serial. I've got all my ghost procs to load, then all my vault procs to load, then I run my business vault procedure that loads landing, and then run my business vault ingest proc. So, again, these are just pointing to the ingest stored procedures that I have. So relatively simple, but if you have an orchestration tool that can point to your platform and execute stored procedures, you're good to go. In a recent project that we worked on, we basically had a version where we had a control table set up within Snowflake, and then we just used Data Factory to cycle through all the stored procedures and then use that to orchestrate our daily loads. So again, pretty simple, pretty easy for everyone to use. And then, yeah, moving on, I guess, what I'd like to maybe quickly make sure we talk about is just what other models we have. We saw the creation there of a hub link satellite. We have same as hierarchical links as well. We can handle and produce code for dependent child, multi-active satellites, can also satellite split as well if you need to. We are working on more and newer templates as well, so there are more coming as the tool matures. We will have more templates and more models that we can work with, and obviously, as we use these on project, we get feedback from groups like this. We can really start to target what people really want. And yeah, we have that, and then that kind of, I guess, leaves me hopefully with enough time for everyone to throw any questions out there. I have also a webinar coming out next week in a little while time, 26th of February. If anyone's interested, or you have any colleagues that couldn't make it today who may be interested in kind of coming to that as well, where we'll go through another demo of the IRiS tool. And yeah, I guess hopefully I fit this a good enough time during your lunch period. And are there any questions or anything else anyone would like to see or go through again?
Thanks, Alex. So people can put things into the chat. That'll help us coordinate. Yeah, going down the list, say Good evening, Patrick. Good to see you on board. He has his first question, which is about producing the Snow command line interface syntax managed in Git. So, any thoughts about that, or how easy would that be to do?
Yes, so it shouldn't be too difficult. It is on our roadmap to look at how to properly not just integrate with source control, but also how to use it to deploy code. So it is on our roadmap to look at. We have also been looking at, I guess, the create or alter command and kind of thinking about how we can maybe change our code and therefore kind of adding that to it as well. We're kind of in the process of looking at it, so I can't say very much more than that. But my developers tell me it shouldn't be too difficult. It's really the ways of working that we need to think about and how to kind of accommodate how people work on project.
Mhm.
That's probably where we're at right now. But it's on the
Okay.
roadmap. Very good question.
Okay. Well, Gabor's got a question about is it possible to modify the code generation? So, like, for example, the caching function that you want to choose.
At the moment, in this version, no, but we've had quite a few people ask that, and that is absolutely going to be happening at the next version that's coming out. What we want to do is we're kind of trying to find that we're riding that fine line between giving people a lot of flexibility to do what they need, but at the same time keeping things very simple.
Hmm.
Um, so we're looking at basically building out a settings file, and with that you can define your hashing algorithm. One of I guess the benefits that we see being able to do that is obviously it gives you that control if you require it, but it also helps us to maybe integrate IRiS into any data vaults that are already there. So you don't have to kind of just rebuild everything in order to use a new tool. We want to be able to kind of slot into what you have already. So yes, another good question that will be coming out soon in more of a kind of settings kind of way. And therefore, with that, we can set the schemas and all of that, the catalogs, because we're also looking at in our next version that's coming out, being able to generate all this as notebooks in deployed to Databricks. So
Hmm.
yeah, we're kind of trying to work around all that at the moment.
Okay, fine. And Anthony's asking the question: does this work with Microsoft Fabric? And if so, which modes?
At the moment, no. We have our three platforms are Snowflake, Synapse, and Databricks. Feel a little bit like kind of be able to run things in Spark using a Spark cluster, Synapse. I kind of, as we're going to look at Fabric, that is next on our, it's also on our roadmap. That will be coming out soon, but currently, no, we don't have anything Fabric specific.
Okay. Fine. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I get it. You know, this is a first release of the software, and therefore you have to be opinionated about what you do in here.
Yeah.
There's a vast array of potential target platforms and algorithms and variations you might want to implement on this. What's your general philosophy about that?
Uh, it's a hard one. It's a hard one. The thing is, I guess there are lots of platforms out there, and there's a big push, I guess, for if to talk to us maybe 12 months ago for Databricks. So we kind of jumped onto that, and we thought we'd start building on that. Now, obviously, Fabric is a real push from Microsoft, so that is also what we're looking at. Our goal really, like I said, is to fit into your way of working. So if these platforms are popular and people are really pushing to want to get Vault into these platforms, our templates at the end of the day are we know what we're doing, we know what we need in order to generate the output that we're looking for. It's just a little bit of code changing here and there to get it to work. And obviously fine tuning it so that because every platform people use those platforms differently in a slightly different way. So if anything, it's that nuance that makes it a little bit harder. What somebody does using Synapse is not the same way they're going to be working if they were sat using Databricks.
Mm.
That's, I think, the problem currently with new platforms. We don't know how people want to use them. There's lots of opinions and so forth, and we need kind of, in order for, we just can't develop everything for every scenario. We have to wait until people kind of tell us, okay, this is actually the best way to use platform ABC, and then we can work around into that.
Okay, thank you. You say you have regular releases. What's your sort of release cadence on this?
So we've had a few. So the version that you're looking at here is actually version 2.3,
Hmm.
2.31, yeah, precise. And we are looking at 2.32 to be coming out in a couple of weeks. We're kind of just finalizing UAT. We've just had a few things we needed to fix up. But we had a previous version, a older legacy version some of our clients are still using. And what we're trying to do is really bring all of that onto this newer UI, this newer platform of ours, this newer app-based version of ours. So at the moment, there's quite a lot kind of coming out as we're trying to get
Hmm.
all the old stuff onto the new way of working. And we're probably looking at releasing, God, probably every month at the moment, which for us is it's pretty fast. We've got something coming out, like I say, in a couple of weeks. We're already building our roadmap, well, extending our roadmap, looking at what we can do in our next phase of work. So we are expecting more to be coming out after our 2.32 release soon, probably something along the lines of 2.4, because I think there's a few extra templates and models we want to release. So
Okay.
hopefully that won't be too long.
Okay. And from me, I guess there's one sort of final question. You talk about a roadmap. Is there a public version statement of where you're going and where could we access that?
And I was really hoping to have that. Yes, it will be coming out. I haven't been able to get hold of Jules as he's around Europe and US to really sit down and just confirm everything with him. So
Okay.
I just need a couple of things ticked off first. But yeah, it shouldn't be too long.
Okay. Yeah, Patrick's got a good question here as well. He's saying, is there space for scripting business rules and doing things outside of the templates that IRiS provides?
You absolutely could. You're totally free to do what you want with your business rules. We obviously have a services section and we have kind of our suggested way of working. But as long as you obviously use your raw vault data and you're pushing that business rule as a singular table in our landing zone, and that singular table again produces your data vault objects, it just goes right back through to IRiS and pick the templates you want to use, and
Um,
out pops out the thing on the other side. So yeah, it's very flexible. We kind of go with stored props because most of the people we work with kind of work in that mindset around T-SQL and so forth. So that's what we go for. But yeah, look, honestly, if you land the data on landing, you can do it any which way you want.
okay. Thank you. Anyone, any further questions before we call a time on this? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alex. That's it's interesting. Really interested to see the future direction of this and all the new features that are being planned here. I think there's going to be just check myself, so I'm not hidden. Yeah, very interested to see this, and thank you very much for staying up late.